Over 30 years ago, a group of like-minded South Africans had a vision to create a school with a purpose. And that purpose was rooted in changing lives through education. This is the story of the changemakers who did just that. A lighthouse was not just a piece of masonry with a lantern housed on it. It was a beacon illuminating the dark. Sentinel shoals, guardians of men, saviors of ships. It was beyond individual significance. It exalted loyalty, it commanded courage. Marguerite, Poland. The town of Penryn was the home of William Mount Stevens, a founder of St. Stithian's School. It means promontory in Cornish, a raised mass of land, the perfect ground for a lighthouse to be built. And the vision of Penryn was to be just that, the beacon school that shines the light for education in Mpumalanga and South Africa.
Well, it was an incredibly exciting time in the history of South Africa. You know, the ANC had just been unbanned, the conversations, the CODESA negotiations had started about a new constitution and democratic South Africa, and there was this coming together of two sides of the South African population in these prominent thought leaders, people, Enos and the people that surrounded him. And then people like David Wild and the early trustees that got involved in the project. And there was this incredible feeling of optimism and hope and enormous energy and goodwill that people put into effort. This particular effort was my experience.
I was the senior deputy head at Pretoria Boys High School. I decided to move into the independent sector, applied to St. Stithians. When I got it, I then had a conversation with a school friend of mine who was running St. Mark's in Leboa. And I said, what outreach should we do at St. Stithians? And he said, whatever you do, do it in the rural areas. So I went to St. Stithians, and Enos Mabuza's son Andile was a boy there. He had contacts with the education department. So to cut a long story short, together with a team, we got the concept of a beacon school, of an outreach program, of being in the Lowveld, and the two schools worked together, and I'm talking now 1989 was when the concept started.
I was a founder of Penryn, but I started before that because of St Albans in Pretoria. We were the first school to start outreach. Because of that, people at the St Stithians asked me to join. People like David Wild, David Schrun, and many others here from the school at St Stithians. And that's how we started. We started and we opened that first little school called Penryn. But we didn't have any ground. So we started in a little nursery school at Plaston. Tiny little place. Just then the Halls firm or company were fantastic. They made land available, and so we were able to buy it at a very good price, and that started us raising money, lots of money, and that's how we started. We started the council, we started the trust, and then they agreed to start doing wonderful outreach work. The first headmaster was Roger Cameron, but he didn't like the name Outreach. So I suggested the name Penreach, and Roger was happy, and that's how we started.
Got involved at Penryn on the invitation of Rob Snatton. We were the auditors of Hall & Sons at that stage, and Rob came to see me one day and said, we're starting the school, we're not sure where it's going, but the vision is to start a private school in Lowveld, linked to St Stithians, and would you like to be involved? And that was probably 30 years ago.
When I was appointed, they just said to me, fine, you go and you start the school. And I thought, okay, now there's nothing. There's not a school, there's no venue, nothing. In the beginning, I had to find pupils. There weren't pupils, and so we decided I made a few posters and asked people at my father and my husband's business to go and put it up in churches in Kabokweni, Kanyamazan. And it went from there. That first year we were just about, I think I started off with 5 little ones, and by the end of the year we were 7, and but it was steadily growing, and for the grade 1 class we had to then appoint a teacher who was Kathy Palm, and we had to put a partition up between her class and mine. The most amazing thing was having these little children. They were like little sponges. Everything you said and everything you taught them, they just absorbed and took it in, and they were always positive, always keen and always happy. It was a joy every day to go and teach them and to be with the school. They started building here, and it went a bit slow because of the fact that we tried to use local people to build the school. As I say, I was so busy with the children that the day we moved from here to there, we had to walk and carry our own chairs and tables. But a wonderful way of teaching and very child orientated.
I was the first headmaster at Penryn. I suppose I was the founding headmaster of Penryn when Penryn was just a tiny, in fact, 2 classes. I didn't know about Penryn at all. In fact, I got a phone call from the minister, the priest at St Michael's in Nelspruit, the Anglican church, who had been my rector in Port Elizabeth, where I was teaching. And he said I'd had a conversation with Rob Snadden at lunchtime on a Sunday, and he said he thinks I would be a good person to apply for the job. So the vision of Penryn was what appealed to me as a young 39, 40-year-old ambitious headmaster. I'd always had a desire to make a contribution to South Africa, to make a contribution in terms of teaching and learning. It was a Methodist school, so that appealed to my Christian understanding of what good schooling was about. It had a link to St. Stithians, which was important because it was all uncertain. There was no school building, there was no school except for 2 classrooms. That vision was what, and I think the confidence in the people. I mean, people that I met, David Wild, Phineas, Rob Snadden, they were good people that I could understand, Robbie Williams. They were people that I could trust. And so they weren't just stringing me along, but the actual opportunity to create a new school is extraordinary. Not many people have that opportunity to build from scratch with the backing of a good group to build a whole school, and that's what we succeeded in doing. We grew from grade 0 to matric in the 7 years that we were there, and it was all wonderful. You planted the grass, you mowed the lawn, you chased the cows off the field, you did everything. I think at that stage in 92, 93, South Africa was aware that massive changes were going to happen. So it wasn't as if Penryn was completely out of line with the future of the country. People were concerned, and I remember people saying, well, what on earth did you do that for? I mean, it's a ridiculous idea. But actually, we were sold on the vision, so actually, we got on with the job. And Penryn was so small at that stage that actually no one gave it much credence. It was a sort of a little blip on the landscape, and no one even recognized that it would become a great school.
I first heard of Penryn when David Wild, and I'm pretty sure it was 20th of July 1989, and I know that because it's the anniversary of the moon landing and things like that. David Wild stood up in the St. Stithians Chapel and announced to the school there was this project going to be established. It was initially called the Saints Project, so it was going to be the Saints College. And that was Enos Mabuza's choice, and that followed on the initial meeting between Enos Mabuza and Bill Carter and David Wild, and I think David Wild was there.
I think of Penryn as my third child, because I've been around since the inception of the school. I was working in the Department of Education in Kangwani when Dr. Enos Mabuza and Professor Rapinga were sitting around tables and talking about the creation and the need of a new school in this area. I then worked for Dr. Lynn Hurry, who was one of the first trustees, and during that time they appointed Susanne Oosthuizen as the first teacher, and they found this site, which was then obviously affirmed by the long-crested eagle. I helped to produce the first play at school, the first college play, which was called Arthur, which was a great amount of fun, and that was in what is now the music centre. In fact, everything took place there. All the prep and college events took place there. There chapels, prize givings, concerts. It was the hub of the school at that time. The parents were vital in developing the school. Parents worked really hard on the facilities of the school, fundraising, and in many ways the parents were a very vital part of the development of the school. It's been a privilege and a joy watching the school develop into what it is today, and I believe that it continues to play a vital role in the community of Nelspruit and White River.
one of the impact of Penryn and Penryn, simply because the teachers were the one who were facilitating. Donors came, and then the then CEO of Penryn Trust, Paul Harris, and it started with MMC, actually taking learners from around the schools, and then we're using a building that's, I don't know, the school is very big now. We will give them biscuits, and then they will use the laboratory. Then it went on, and other schools wanted the same thing. So we decided that, instead of focusing on learners more, let's focus on capacitating the teachers. So that year, when I started in May, by the end of the year, in 1999, we had more than 1,000 teachers coming.
Applying for the children to come to Penryn when they was basically just born. But luckily enough for me, after a year, I got space for my son first and then later my daughter. And we were embraced into a community that was such a warm place to be. I'll never forget that you kind of felt part of something bigger than just the school at the end of the day. And Penryn is still today something much more than just the school for our family. My children, by being at Penryn, my children received life skills that they would have found nowhere else. I truly believe that. The legacy of Penryn will stay with my family forever, and reflects in the passion that my children have for knowledge, the empathy that they have for different diverse cultures, and for their love of God.
The motto of the school, it's by teaching the children self-sufficiency and as a parent and teachers to zoom in on the child, and it being a child-orientated school. After so many years, to see that it's still what we started off with the hope it was going to be. And I know that's all thanks to the Lord.